What's going on, YouTube? Today we're going to be talking about returning to ESO, one of the best decisions that you can make as an MMO player. We're going to be going over all of the important chapter updates as well as the things that you need to know based on what was in those chapters. We're going to be going over updated daily routines that you need to kind of get back in the swing of, and basically overall what are some good sets that you can use to get kind of caught back up, as well as some other brief tips. Now, this is going to be a very general overview, as a lot of things have individual specific guides. For example, while we will touch on things such as antiquities, this will not be a full leveling guide on antiquities, just more so a how to begin antiquities and what you need to know about it in a general overview. That way the video doesn't run for too long. But talking about videos running too long, this is just a quick reminder that we've made a video every single day this week. We've streamed every single day this week. If you would be so kind as to subscribe, as we are so close to 10,000 subscribers. Tomorrow we're going to be doing our new player guide, which would be slightly different. I mean, similar information in that it will be as a you've just loaded up ESO, where the heck do you go now? So these two guides are going to be separated based on the information in them, but I think that they'll both be good to reference for both returning new players and players who may just, you know, enjoy my lovely serenaded voice like an ASMR video. So with that wrapping up, let's jump into the video. Starting us off with the most important tip I have for you guys. The Elder Scrolls Online, generally at least 1 week out of every month, has an active event, and I highly encourage you to participate in that event. So the next event is going to be the Pan Elsewhere event, which only requires you to have the DLC or the chapter for Elsewhere. You could have ESO Plus, or you may have purchased a version of the Elder Scrolls Online that has Elsewhere. But regardless of which event is going on, every single ESO event has something that you can participate in and an easy way you can grind it. One of the most disheartening things that I see in comments or in discussions with people is people say, well, I didn't participate in the event because I didn't feel like I was good enough. I didn't feel like I was able to. Always participate in the events. I always try to cover ways in my videos how you can participate, how you should farm it, and there's a very low bar to entry for every single Elder Scrolls Online event. Even the ones that are dedicated to things like dungeon running or PvP, there's always easy things that you can do to farm those, and I am here to help with those things. But this is my number one suggestion because a lot of events have really good gold making opportunities, XP making opportunities, two of the most important things for a returning player to have, in addition to exclusive items that may only be available during that event. So as my number one tip for you at the beginning of this video, always participate in active events, and maybe stop by Jake Clips' channel to see how you can participate most effectively. Next, we have one of the more unique to ESO type features, and that is going to the stable every day to upgrade your mount. One of the more annoying features in the Elder Scrolls Online versus other MMOs. However, always remember that every 20 hours you're able to upgrade your carrying capacity, your stamina, or your speed. Also a reminder too that your carrying capacity will give you a whole new, fully usable bag space that you can have. So that's generally what I suggest, as especially if you don't have ESO Plus, your bag is just going to be bursting at the bits with things that you're picking up in the overworld. But speed is also a good backup, with stamina generally what I suggest as the third upgrade option. So as a reminder, take as many active characters that you're playing on to the stable every single day to upgrade them. In the same vein too, because I think a lot of people forget about this, is that you can also upgrade your bag space at a bag space merchant. I have mine maxed out. However, if you didn't, basically for an increased cost of gold, you're able to upgrade your bag space a certain amount of times with an increased fee every single time. You're also able to utilize a banker to upgrade your bank space as well. So once you have the gold, this is one of the most essential options that I would encourage you guys to utilize, as bag space is everything. Next, we have the Armory system. Why I think the Armory system is the second most important feature to highlight for a returning player is it gives you access to the ability to do multiple different types of roles, multiple different types of content, and you can switch between those with a click of the wrist. The Armory is a free addition. Every character gets access to 2 free Armory slots, which means that you could have a tank and a DPS build, a PvP and a PvE build, it gives you so much access to utilizing your character for multiple things. As you can see, we are able to rotate through whole different skill lines. We're able to rotate through potions. We could even switch our mundus. We could switch through curses such as vampirism or werewolfinism. The ability to switch on a flick of a wrist means that your character that you probably had, maybe you were grinding it, maybe you were a little lost with it, you didn't know what you wanted to do, can still be utilized for content. Or if you made a tank character and you're like, I really want to return and I want to get back into the swing of things, but I don't want to be a tank again. Well, this is your way. You can still keep him as a tank, but you can also switch him over with a new mundus, a new attribute point redistribution, and everything else. It'll be as if he's a totally different character. So this is why I highlight it so importantly. It is, again, it's free. It is in the Crown Store under furnishings. It's a very helpful item to have, and one that I definitely suggest that all of you guys utilize for your characters. Next is actually a social tip. So when returning to the Elder Scrolls Online, I think it's always helpful to become reacquainted with the community. And one of the easiest ways to get reacquainted with the community is to rejoin guilds. There's all different types of flavors of guilds, from social guilds to trade guilds. I generally would suggest a mixture. A free trade guild to be able to sell some of the items that you may have had previously that are worth a lot. Thinking about some things in your craft bag that are probably worth a lot. Mundane runes, heartwood, etc. But you're also able to look at things like social guilds, PvP guilds, questing guilds, role-playing guilds, all different types of flavors of the Elder Scrolls Online with these communities for you are kind of in these guilds. And I think it's a great way to really kind of throw yourself back into the mix, is to rejoin these communities if you aren't already still in these, and also to consider things like Discord, band chats, Facebook groups, and Reddit pages too. So that's another great way to ask questions to the Elder Scrolls community, become acquainted with other people, get inside of some social activities. And as always, you can put in the comments below if you have questions or anything that I can help with, as I do my best to answer every single comment that you guys leave, as I also wish to help. But those are some other great opportunities that you have as a returning ESO player. Next, we have leveling, as this new system of leveling may look completely foreign to you. The star systems are different. You may have played when there was veteran levels. They've completely updated their leveling system in the Elder Scrolls Online. 810 is no longer the soft cap level. Now it's very, very high. It's about 3,000 plus at this point. So what that means for you is that you may have a character of varying levels. However, the most important level for you is 160. 160 is where the game becomes very accessible to you to be able to do pretty much most of the content that you would want, while you're not going to be able to do a lot of hard modes and ridiculously difficult veteran content. At 160, you're able to fully mid-max your sets. You're able to access a lot of the champion points that you would need, and you're able to really upgrade your gear without feeling as though you are going to have to make whole new sets of gear once you hit a higher level, because 160 is the gear cap. So that's when you can really sink your teeth into getting the sets that you need. Along with getting the gear sets that you need, there's a whole new set collection system, as well as a new currency of transmute crystals. For those of you who are aware of these systems, it's just a 1,000-foot overview, but basically you're able to reconstruct sets that you've had bound to you before, and they come from every type of content: dungeons, trials, overland, PvP. If you have it bound to you, it is in your sticker book, and for transmute crystals, you are able to reconstruct it, or if you have a piece that's in the wrong trait, you can pay some transmute crystals to turn it into a trait that you would want. It's a very helpful system that makes grinding significantly easier, and it also comes with curated drops. So for example, if you're running a dungeon and you kill a boss, you're guaranteed to get what's called a curated drop now, which means that you're going to get an item that you didn't have if that boss can give you an item that you didn't have. They do not apply to chests in dungeons, however, they do apply to bosses, which means that you shouldn't have to continually run dungeons like I did back in the day, years ago, for a Medusa Fire Staff or a Hollow Fang Resto Staff. You're able to more easily farm for these items. I don't necessarily suggest either of those sets in 2023, however, they're good examples, because we used to think that they didn't exist. Next, we have Antiquities. Antiquities was released in the Greymoor expansion, so as long as you have a Western Skyrim, you're going to be able to access this new expansion. It is actually a brand new skill line, so to come on over and grab this bad boy, you just head to the Antiquitarian Circle inside of Solitude, inside of Western Skyrim. But what it does is it actually gives you access to a brand new skill line that is going to be used to dig up extremely rare items, that being the excavation skill line and the scrying skill line. But basically, on its surface, how it works is you go out, find leads for rare treasure. These treasures can range from things that you can sell to vendors for a pretty penny, with the highest one being worth 100,000 gold, to completely viable mythical items used for both endgame PvP as well as PvE. What a mythical does is it basically gives you a 5-piece set bonus with generally a drawback, my favorite being the Gaze of Sithis, which gives you a ton of health recovery, and resistances, but doesn't let you get anything from blocking. So there's generally a bit of a drawback, but you are gaining basically what is a 5-piece set bonus with a small caveat. With some of the highest used items for both PvP and PvE, looking at you, the Harpooner's Kilt and the Oaken Soul Ring, locked behind excavation and scrying, it is definitely something that you want to level up and start participating in. Plus, the process of leveling it is going to give you a really nice chunk of gold. Next, we have another brand new system that was added in the Somerset expansion, which is jewelry crafting. Now, for those of you who are probably a bit kind of, I don't really think I want to be a crafter, Jake, hear me out. This is important as any returning player, not specific to jewelry crafting. So you know how we went over earlier, set items that are inside of the collectibles, you're able to reconstruct them or transmute them using those transmute crystals. Well, if you want to switch something from one trait to a trait that you want, that's, meta obviously, you're going to need to have that trait pre-learned. So what I encourage you guys to do every single day that you're able to is start learning the traits, especially the important ones like Divines for PvE content, Impenetrable for PvP content, and honestly, too, for jewelry, I think Bloodthirsty is a great one to start learning, as well as Arcane, Healthy, and Robust. I think overall they're just very highly used for different types of content, and if you start doing this early, you're not going to be in a situation where you're like, oh, I have this brand new ring, and I want to reconstruct it, and get into this, start parsing with it and whatnot, but now I have to wait 3 days until I can get the Bloodthirsty trait on it. Start doing it now and start doing it as early as you can to help give yourself a leg up in the future, even if you don't need the gear right now. Next, we're going to be going over some skill lines / guild lines that are worth doing to kind of get into, starting with, where, as you can tell, if you know where we are, we're in Artaeum. That is another expansion as well, in addition to the Somerset storyline. It's in the Somerset chapter, and it takes you to the Psijic Island, which actually gives you access to the Psijic Order skill line, which is a great skill line that's used for both PvP and PvE endgame content. What's really nice though about this too is from just a solo perspective, it gives you access to the Artaeum Island, which is the #1 place to level up your Antiquity skill line, which, by the way, in the pinned comment below will be updated guides on everything that I'm talking about, expanding upon things such as places to farm experience, how to level up your scrying, etc., just so that this video doesn't become bogged down. However, hitting on the highlight again, overall, Artaeum's a great island. You get access to it by completing the Somerset storyline. I believe you get to go here on your 2nd or 3rd quest. Once you're here, you're able to utilize the island for its amazing fishing spots, which is going to give you access to Psijic satchels, which can sell really well. You get access to no enemy mobs, so it's very easy to fish. It's very easy to level up your scrying / antiquity skill line, and overall is a great place to be, as you can see for all these chaps here. And it's also a great place to farm resources as well. And one other quick guild line that I think is really essential to join is the Dark Brotherhood. Now, what's nice about going to the Gold Coast, which is over here on your map, is that you only have to do the first quest to get the item that I think is essential for you, and that is the Blade of Woe. The Blade of Woe gives you the ability to basically sneak behind almost any NPC and assassinate them. Basically making thievery, stealing, looting, people's houses significantly easier because you get access to a kill shot that you're able to utilize on these NPCs without building up your bounty or anything else. While I do generally suggest doing the entirety of the skill line because I think it's relatively cool, as well as its brother over here, the Thieves Guild storyline, it is not as essential as it is to get that Blade of Woe early on, as it will even make doing the Thieves Guild storyline significantly easier, as you no longer have to sneak past a lot of these people. You can just get them out of the way the old-fashioned way. In the Blackwood expansion, we were given one of the most interesting updates in the Elder Scrolls Online, and that was companions. Since then, in the High Isle update, we were given 2 more companions for a total of 4 companions in the Elder Scrolls Online. What a lot of people are confused about with companions when I discuss this with them is more so just what should you do with them. And my suggestion is just have them out. Having a companion / having a companion out gives you access to companion gear, which is a very great sellable item, but it also just gives you access to basically another person that can tank aggro for you. I build my Isabel, the best companion, to be a tank, and she's able to easily, keep the aggro of these world bosses, which just makes doing content overall easier, because essentially you're no longer doing it alone, even if you are by yourself without, other players assisting you. You can get 2 companions if you have the Blackwood expansion, and you can get 2 companions if you have the High Isle expansion, both of which I would say are easily viable, and it doesn't really necessarily matter which companion you use, although I do have a video breaking down the differences between the companions. I just honestly think it's more important that you have a companion, because that will give you, again, access to companion drops, as well as someone to help you, and I personally suggest that you build your companions to be a tank versus a DPS, as I think someone that can keep the aggro from these other bosses and these other mobs from you is generally the most helpful thing that they could do. But some people build them to be DPS and kill things faster, but I leave that to you, the viewer. How do you want to build your companion? As long as you do what I say and go get yourself one. Next, we're going to talk about sets to collect, and I think the 2 most popular sets that you guys should collect for PvE content are Pillar of Nirn and Kinraz. Both are great option depending on the type of character you're trying to build, and they're both very, very good PvE sets for both trial content and 4-man content. Kinraz dropping from Black Drake Villa, as well as Pillar of Nirn dropping from Falkreath Hold. Some other things that I think are essential to get if you're able to: Harpooner's Kilt that drops from Blackwood, as long as you also have mythicals unlocked, is a great mythical for you to get, as well as the Veteran Maelstrom Arena weapons. Again, they have been nerfed if you guys did not see that, so they're not as good as they were. However, they're still universally used. Other good options are the Vicious Serpent, which comes from the Trial in High Isle, as well as Basai, which comes from the Trial in Rockgrove. These are all really good sets that I think are worth collecting and building your sticker book towards. I will default to people who are more intelligent than I on what is the best way to build specific classes, such as Templars, Dragon Knights, Sorcerers, Wardens, Necromancers for tanking, healing, DPS, and all that other stuff. So I would point you to someone like Deltia's Gaming, who did make a really good returning player guide on the specifics of the combat changes, as I am not as well versed in the endgame PvE / score pushing metas. However, he made a very good video on it. What I will tell you, though, is that say you made a sorcerer and you're like, oh my gosh, everyone's saying Dragon Knights are the best class. Do not feel like you have to now make a Dragon Knight because it is the most talked about meta class in X specific time, as all classes are very, very close together. You can parse very, very high with any class. You can get into a trial with any class. What I would suggest is play the class that you want to play. Do not feel as though you constantly have to have a character who's going to do the absolute pinnacle of the best and try to constantly be attaining that best DPS possible, as honestly, the meta is going to change again, and the class that you may have just been overlooking to make the new best meta class may now be the one that's the best there is. So it's more important that you have fun and you play the class that you want to play, and that is what I will always encourage people to do. And finally, I wanted to talk about the Crown Store, probably one of the more controversial topics in the Elder Scrolls Online, but I get asked this pretty frequently. Jake, what's in the Crown Store that's good? What's in the Crown Store that I should have? Is the Crown Store pay to win? I can't answer that last question for you without catching a lot of flack, but the only real things that I suggest are the merchant and the banker upgrade. I think that the merchant is definitely more important. As for example, say you're farming a public dungeon trying to get a set. You could pick a set in your head. Say we're in the shelter inside of Deshaun farming for Mother Sorrow, and we're picking up all this garbage ornate gear and this offset stuff. We're just going to quick sell to the merchant and keep on keeping on. We're not going to bank those items, and you can actually make a pretty good click of gold by selling those items quickly. I think having the merchant is more essential than the banker, as generally I don't need to access the bank on the fly very often. Same with the armory. Being able to access the armory at your house is definitely as convenient as it is pulling out an assistant. For me at least, I don't see the price point being worth it. Is there anything else in the Crown Store that I think is worth anything? I do think that houses I think are very cool. I'm obviously a furnisher, so I love decorating houses and whatnot. But as far as things such as the style parlor and all these other crafting things, I think a lot of these things, for example, even these researching things, can be gained in game. So I would encourage you to look more so at finding things and grinding them inside the game, as well as looking at, besides looking at the Crown Store. The only other exception, what I would say, are these 3 non-combat pets give each of your characters 5 additional slots, even when these pets aren't pulled out. So if you're like me and you have a ton of characters, these are generally very helpful. And for 1,200 crowns, they're pretty good for their price point. But overall, though, the rest of the Crown Store, I would say, is not essential to me. I do still suggest ESO Plus. I think it's a great way to get a taste for the game, see if these expansions and things are good. And +2, you're going to then get monthly crowns, which you can then allot towards buying DLCs that you want to have. Or if you've already completed a DLC and you don't feel like you need to go there again, you don't have to ever utilize or go back there with your ESO Plus, once it's canceled. So I do think ESO Plus is generally very helpful, but the Crown Store as a whole, really it boils down to 3 non-combat pets for me and 2 assistants. The only other exception I would say are armory slot upgrades. If, say, for example, you want to have someone be a tank, a healer, and a DPS, you could consider purchasing additional armory slots as well as additional character slots. Could be really good options for you. But besides that, I think overall the Crown Store is pretty balanced with what can be earned in-game. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up the video. We've gone through it. We've talked about everything that I wanted to highlight for a returning player in the Elder Scrolls Online. Remember to leave a comment in the comments below, as this is going to be entered into our giveaway. We do a giveaway at the beginning of every month. I pull every single comment that was listed and pull a winner, and then I pull a comment listed by every subscriber and pull a subscriber winner. It's the easiest way that I can help give back to my community. Each one of you will either get $20 PayPal or $20 via a gift card, depending on the console in which you play on. I think it's a great way for me to give back and use it as a tax write-off. So it's a win-win all around. Leave a comment below, because we are making a new player's guide tomorrow. So if you have suggestions for newer players, I think it's definitely a great time to go in and leave me some suggestions, because it's very helpful to know what your guys' opinions are. Like, what should a new player know? And is there anything else that I'm missing? What is a returning player should also be highlighted for people coming back? I will also, as I said, put in the pinned comments below different videos that highlight different sections in more detail. But is there anything I missed? Anything I should add? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jake Clips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.
Because I didn't do a post-outro scene on my last video, I'm going to do one here, but it's got to be very quick because the runtime on this video is pretty long. So I just want to highlight and thank you guys for everything that you've done. We're so close to 10,000 subscribers. And I just want to thank you guys again for helping me get to this point. This is a milestone I never thought that I would ever even be close to. So to be so close to it where I could get it in the next month is just crazy to think about. So thank you guys again so much for sticking around, and thank you guys again for being involved and being a part of the community that I've helped create. And just again, thank you. And as always, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.